Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Going to be doing a modern league. Going to go over the deck overview here, and then after the deck overview I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to play my first match without distractions. Then after that first match I'll go into history and just give a rundown of the game, giving commentary, being able to slow down areas to explain decisions or speed up areas where there's just a lot of clicking and slow play and stuff that's not really entertaining. So what we got here today is Nexus Reclamation. This deck was very popular in Standard. It actually got Nexus banned in Standard. And now we're going to try it in Modern, see if we can do the same for Nexus in Modern. We got 4 Nexus, 4 Reclamations. That is like the key of the deck. You got Ghost Spirals to try to get to 4 mana faster for the Reclamation. There's Counterspell in the form of the card Counterspell, and in Charm, Cryptic Commands also does that, but it also has a lot of other helpful modes. One being able to bounce a permanent, so if they've got something on the battlefield preventing us from doing what we're trying to do, we can bounce that. And also we can bounce our own Eternal Witness. So it's a little 2-card combo with Eternal Witness and Cryptic Command. You can Cryptic Command, Counterspell, bounce Eternal Witness, play Eternal Witness, bring back Cryptic Commands, and you can counter every spell that your opponent plays. With Reclamation, it makes it easier because we spend our mana on our turn to play the Witness, and then we have our mana open for their turn for the Cryptic Commands. You can also do this, you can tap down all the creatures and bounce Eternal Witness. But that one, because it only has one target, and that's just Eternal Witness, that is, if they have the removal spell for the Witness, it will fizz a whole spell. So that one's a little more dangerous to do in the form of like a bolt or something that's going to interfere with that. Jace Mind Sculptor, I've seen other versions of this, a few other decks play this kind of deck, or other people play this kind of deck, and I've seen Tamiyo's being played, but I think Jace actually fits really well in this shell, as both it is a win con. If you eventually get it up to Emblem, you take enough turns, you +2 at every turn, and you can get to that Emblem, and or not Emblem, but that Ultimate, and you can end the game with that. But also just being able to brainstorm into a Nexus and then cast Nexus and shuffle your library it's really good to have the card you're trying to find also be a shuffle effect that can just keep shuffling the cards that you're not particularly looking at the time. It doesn't thin the deck as much as the Tamiyo does, but it does cycle through a lot of cards. With this taking infinite turns, what we're trying to end up actually win the game with is going to be Shark Typhoon, making 7/7s with Nexus every single time will end the game pretty quick. We can also end the game with Hall of the Storm Giants, spending our sorcery speed mana, making it into a 7/7 attacking, and then Reclamation, and then end the turn casting Nexus and attacking with the 7/7 again. The slower way, but it's still win con, is attacking with Eternal Witness, and for 2 damage, use Cryptic Command to tap down their blockers, and then just attack in for 2. It might take a few turns, but with Nexus, we should be pretty easily able to get infinite turns. Another card I've been trying this that has actually been working pretty well is Gretchen. With all the mana that we make with Reclamation, having this instant speed thing that we can do at end of turn, just float our mana, sink it all into this to get more mana on the battlefields, can really help thin the deck and get to the Nexus faster. And then the other, much slower, especially on Magic Online, is Mikakora. We can actually mill our opponent with this. Every turn we use this. We don't mill because we have Nexus, so we keep Nexus and keep putting it back in our deck, and they eventually do mill. So very slow for Magic Online, but it is a win con that doesn't target, doesn't deal combat damage. It is there. But also Mikakora is a land, so it's not like it's a dead card, and it does help us draw into Nexus when we're not actually just trying to kill opponent by milling them out. And that is the main deck. One search for Azcanta, it's just kind of a slow card, but if it does ever flip and do its thing, it's really good and really powerful for the deck. This deck could play Memory Deluge. I just don't know exactly what the cut for Memory Deluge would be. And also, Brazen Borrow is worth mentioning as another win con you could play. That's would be good in this deck. Maybe some number of Eternal Witness for Brazen Borrows would be good. But at this current list, I'm not running Brazen Borrows. And then sideboard, pretty standard blue counters, just extra counters for control. Some of the cheaper ones like Mystical Dispute and Spell Pierce. We got Fog against some of the more aggro decks. Force of Vigor, just against good. It's just a good card to have in sideboard. We don't have a whole lot of green, so really going to be using its alternate casting cost too much, but should actually, with Reclamation, just be able to pay the 4 mana, not too difficultly. And then one Weather Storm, just as something that we have for burn. Run Afoul is good against Murktides and good against Archons. And that is it for the deck. So a little bit longer of a deck overview, but let's go and see how this does in match number 1. Alright, starting up the league. Match 1, game 1. We lost a die roll, so we'll be on the draw, which is sad. Alright, good starting hand. It's got lands, it's got Ghost Files, it's got a Charm to, yeah, a lot of card draw, a lot of what we want. Alright, they got the turn 1 Monkey, which is like one of the worst things for this deck. There's a Nexus, not really what we want quite yet. They also exile one of our Nexus, which is not great. That's one of the few ways that you could actually deal with a Nexus. In response to the Voidwalker, just get this land in our graveyard. Not that they're really gonna use a Dauthi to get a Misty Rainforest, but better not even to get them have that option. Right, here's the Thoughtseize. We have the Dundant Growth Spells, so we'll just let them take their choice, and they get rid of the Charm. They get in for 5. They exile Harbor, which isn't too bad. And the turn we're going to go Spiral into putting the Vista into play and going to crack the Vista to thin the deck. Alright, Reclamation's really good draw here. That's basically exactly what we needed, so play that out. And then we need to make sure that we have the end stop at our end step. This turn is not so relevant, but with Reclamation, if you don't have that stop, you're just going to untap and then instantly pass the turn, and you can miss opportunity that you need to do stuff. Nothing worth here casting at end of our turn would just cast on their turn. They get in for another 5, puts us down to 6. And then they exile another Harbor. Yeah, they exile another Harbor. And then cast another Voidwalker. So they have lethal on the board. We'll go ahead and Growth Sprout, try to hit a land so that we can cast this Vision. We do not hit the lands. But Jace is still good here. We can't cast Jace and Nexus. I could have shocked in down to 4 and time warped, but time warp and then with my untap, I guess Scry 2 wouldn't have been too bad. That might have actually been better. I'm just trying to conserve life total, but I'm dead to double bolt anyway, so that might have been worth it to just shock and time warp there, but end up just floating the mana, untapping, and then tapping Nexus, and then now we have 2 extra mana, so not as efficient with our mana as if we would have just time warped and then scry 2. But typically you do want to cast a Nexus first, just so you can shuffle it back in and increase your odds of drawing the Nexus, which we did exactly there, increase the odds of drawing the Nexus. So now we have 5 mana, which means end of turn we'll have 6, so we actually have enough here that we can cast Jace first, Brainstorm, we hit another Nexus, which is good, and the Shark Typhoon, which is going to be good for the clock, so actually get to put the time warp on bottom, play the land, don't have to shock it, no reason to shock it here, float the 1 mana, untap 6 lands, cast Nexus, take an extra turn. Alright, don't really need the second Reclamation, so let's Brainstorm, see if there's better things we can grab. So yeah, keep one of the Cryptics, we'll shuffle away the Reclamation with this Nexus. So play out the Shark Typhoon, get to play that tapped again because we're going to untap all 7 of these lands anyway. And then cast another Nexus, make a 7/7. Go to our next extra turn, Brainstorm. Don't need the second Jace, and don't really need the Growth Spell. I mean, at this point we actually have lethal. We just attack for 7, take an extra turn, make another 7/7, attack for 14. So doesn't quite matter what we get here, but maybe shouldn't show them the Gretchen. Maybe that will make them keep in a little bit, keep in pushes or things. Float with the mana. Cast the, so always want to cast the Nexus before you do any kind of draw, just to increase that odds of drawing. So cast the Nexus, and then we could Gretchen. He's a little confused of how Nexus of Fate and Voidwalker works, but it does work in our favor. Voidwalker does not get to exile Nexus. Nexus just shuffles back in, and we just keep getting Nexus. So that's game 1 against Black-Red. For game 2 against Black-Red, I did see the Voidwalker, so I took out some of the more graveyard parts of the deck, like the Search for Scanta and the 3 Witnesses, and put in the 2 Fogs to try to help against some of their early attacks, and put in the 2 Spell Pierces to try to counter some of their early, like, Thoughtseize or Bolts or things. Our opening hands, no green mana, so it's a little risky, but it does have the charm to try to draw up more cards and maybe find the green. It's got the Cryptic, it's got the 4 mana to cast the Cryptic, so it's definitely questionable. And these castles will be coming to play tapped unless we draw a island or a forest, or an island. But it's worth it to try, especially against the Scams deck. You just want as many cards. It's hard to mulligan against them. So Alright, no turn 1 Ragavan. That is definitely good. That is a scary card. Alright, top deck the land that we need. So we're going to put that in play tapped first. That way we can get Haul on turn 2. Alright, another green mana. Not quite what we needed. We already got the 1 green we need, so. But still another land. So no turn 2 play for them either. And their first play of the game is turn 3 Fable. So actually pretty good for us for them to have this kind of slow start. Go in Growth Spiral, put in the Harbor. Drop the Nexus, which is going well. Tap here. They get in for 2. I could steal it, but I'd rather just save the mana open to counter. It would be kind of cool to have one that can attack, but normally stealing their creatures isn't worth it, because if they just have the removal spell, it does card advantage us, but normally not worth. So this is a bad card for us. We draw our cards and that will kill us. So definitely worth the counter here. Growth Spiral for the card draw first, and then I can play out the Charm. This is where these visions would definitely be looking better as Memory Deluges. There's other situations where, you know, playing them as a land makes them better as visions, but yeah, here looking at top 7, only getting 1 card, or top 6. We get the Nexus, but don't really have anything that's going to make this extra turn look all that great. Possibly not even worth just taking the extra turn here. Just hold on to Nexus, maybe try to like end it. Well, we don't have enough that we could do end of their turn. But cast it anyway. Get the extra turn. Alright, drawing more lands. Kind of flooding heavily here. Nothing better to do with our mana. We could try to dig for another Nexus, or maybe a Charm to draw more cards or something. But at this point, just swinging for 7, actually trying to close out the game doesn't seem too bad, and then just saving up, having Cryptic and Vision in hands. Pyromancer's fine, not worth countering. Thoughtseize, that's going to be worth countering, and because they did this pre-combat, we're going to be able to counter it and tap down their board, which is going to save us up some damage and prevent them from making a treasure, so seems pretty good exchange there. Look at top 6, and not a great Visions here. If that would have been a Memory Deluge, this would have been much better, so just Cryptic's the best thing to take here. It essentially can do the same as Fog by tapping down the board. And then draw for the turn is another land, the Misty Rainforest. So yeah, this is kind of getting a little flooded heavy here. Use Misty Rainforest to thin out the deck. And go in trying to close out the game. They make a token of the Pyro, draw some more cards, discarding a Fury and a Torak. I could tap down the board, but I kind of want to save up the counter. This isn't lethal, so I can take this attack. 1 treasure is not that big of a deal either, so 1 more treasure. I have the mana, so I can tap down their 2 tokens try to swing in with the haul. It could have been better just to draw a card. It could be better just to scry and hold up this Cryptic, but especially with him still having this much mana and 3 cards in hands, and they don't have a Pyro in the graveyard that they could, you know, flash back, but I go with that. I draw into yet another land, and then draw into a Charm, play the land, thin the deck down to 9, activate the Hull for attacking for lethal, and yeah, what I was afraid of, they do have the removal, and we are 1 mana short of countering it, so that actually gets to resolve. They have the mana for ward. Again, that counter would have been really nice because they couldn't have a follow-up like push or thing. They don't have enough to pay for ward again. Get to float the mana here. I could scry and then draw, but that doesn't leave me with a whole lot of mana open, so it's better just to try to draw into something. Draw into the Nexus, which we have exactly enough mana for, and in the Spell Pierce, which was a turn too late. That would have been, you know, really helpful for the Terminate. Play the Nexus into another land. So that was like 4 or 5 land drops in a row that, you know, drawing a lot of cards, but they just ended up being all lands. Play for the turn, and they have, or hold it up. There's no reason to play it out. Use my mana to scry. I find the fog on top, but I don't have any way of drawing the fog, so that's lethal right there on board. Hope maybe holding up cards will maybe make them play different, but yeah, they kick a Torok. That's going to make it so I can't even bluff cards, so just concede here to conceal information, and we'll see you in game 3. So finally we get to be on the play. Sideboard, I did make a slight change. I put back in the search for Azcanta, and I took out one of the Time Warps. I didn't see the Voidwalkers that game, and search is still fine as a way that when they get rid of my hands, it's an enchantment that's hard for them to deal with, and I can still surveil 1 every upkeep, which can help my top deck. So I put that back in and just took out one of the Time Warps. Alright, opening hands, pretty good here. We got the turn 1 counter, got the turn 2 counter. All we need is 1 lands, and then we can play this Reclamation, get Jace out, and things are looking pretty good. So, lead off with the Misty, and they do have the turn 1 Regavan, which our counter does not deal with, unfortunate. Alright, there's another 4-drop. Not the land that we need, but still not too bad with holding up, having the counter. They hit us with the monkey. They hit a Cryptic command, that's good. We didn't want any of the 4-drops, so. And they can't cast it anyway. Alright, there's the Voidwalker. I want to just be efficient with my mana here, use it in counterspell. That is also going to shorten their clock, because 3 damage a turn is a lot. Nexus, a 7-drop, not the 4th land we wanted. They attack in. And they exiled both Seiju. That is the 4th land that we would have wanted. There's a Cruxa. Just couldn't discard the Nexus, it shuffles back anyway, so. I like all the other cards in the hand. Here's another Cruxa. This one's a little bit more difficult. I really am hoping on drawing that 4th land so I can start casting some of these 4-drops. Spell Pierce, with what they're doing right now, is not very helpful. do play a lot of creatures, so it was kind of a questionable thing to even bring in. So I do discard that, and I draw the Nexus. Maybe I shouldn't have shuffled to discard it to shuffle back in. Really wanted the 4th land there. Really unfortunate that unlike game 2 where we drew 5 lands, this game we've had 4 draws and drawn no lands. They hit our Growth Spiral, they can't actually cast it. Thoughtseize, not too painful against us, but they do get the Reclamation. So, Charm's a good draw here, but an interesting one. Because I could hold it up for a counterspell. I could use it right away to try to find my 4th land drop. Or I could steal the Regavan and maybe start trying to hit them with Regavan. As I said in the last game, I don't really want to steal the Regavan because if they push, I just traded a Charm for a Regavan to push. Still seems fine, but not as good as the other options. So I decided to just hold it up and either counter something or just draw it into their turn. They hit in with Monkey, and then they get probably one of the worst things that they could have got from us. They hit the Spell Pierce. So now my plan of holding up and playing Charm at end of turn isn't going to work because they can just sack the treasure and Spell Pierce my Charm. And it's not really worth trading the Charm for a treasure and a card that's going to exile anyway, so that backfires there by quite a bit. Now, having Fog being the card I drew, I really want to try to find this 4th land that I have not been able to find yet in 5 card draws. So, draw the 2 cards. Hopefully I can find the green source and play this Fog. With me being tapped out, they take advantage to Lightning Bolts and another Lightning Bolt. And I see 2 more non-lands. So a lot of draws, a lot of potential. We went to 18 cards of the deck and saw 4 lands. So yeah, that is Magic. Game 2, Flood. Game 3, can't find the 4th lands. Dead on board now because they can just attack. They have the cards in the graveyard. They can bring back. They can escape. Cruxa. I guess I could have discarded a non-lands for Cruxa. So maybe I could have stalled one more turn, but they still have 3 cards in hand. They still have a Regavan that's hitting me. And still, even now at this point, if we draw 4th lands, it's just too little too late. So we lose match 1 to Mana, Flood, and Mana Stuck. So unfortunate, but that's the game. For match number 2, we won the die roll, so we'll get to be on the play. Opening hands, not great. It's only got 2 lands, but it does have 2 counterspells, and it does have like everything else we need. So if we can find 1 more lands, we can play this Charm. Hopefully, draw into a 4th land. A little deja vu from our last match that we just got stuck on 3 lands, but I think depending on what we're up against, these 2 counterspells might be good enough to get us until we can find our lands. So, gonna try keeping it. It's a little risky. And there goes that idea, because that's a turn 1 Swift Spear, which most likely means burn. And there's another non-land, so yeah, this is not looking good for us. Just go and counterspell this. I mean, maybe they have the other one that they need to get the damage first with the Spectate, so their Spectacle, so just counter that one, and they just have a second Lava Spike, so yeah, that is a lot of damage already, and that's another 4-drop instead of a 3rd land, so definitely deja vu here. There's a Boris Charm, just counter that. That's a 4 damage spell, so good use of a counter. And there's another Lava Spike, there's another swing, puts this down to 6, and there is a Nexus, not our 3rd lands. Not technically dead, they do have 2 cards in hand, but we have nothing we can play this turn. Next turn, the best we can do is draw 2 cards. We're practically, if not dead, and concealing information. Right now, they may not know what we're on. All they saw was Breeding Pool and Islands and 2 counterspells, so they know we're on some kind of blue-green. And they saw we didn't have a companion, so we'll try match number 2. Game number 2. For game 2 against Burn, I took out some of the slower spells like Time Warp and Cryptic Commands and won the Eternal Witness and put in 2 of the Spell Pierces, 2 of the Aether Gust, and then the Storm gain life. So try to speed it up a little bit against the aggressive deck. Opening hand's much better. It's got 2 Ghost Spells, which is going to be good for ramp and card draw. 1 Gust for interaction, and Search isn't too great again in this matchup. Definitely don't want to be leaning on it early, but it could be good for later. So going to lead on the Misty Rainforest. There's Goblin Guide attacking in and giving us a land, so that's also good. There's another land. These growth sprouts definitely will be helping get these lands in the battlefield. Another attack with Guide. This time hitting adjacent Mind Sculptor. Got their 2nd land for turn. And don't actually cast anything, so we'll growth spell, draw the Jace, put a Harbor on the battlefields, and then really nice draw on the Reclamation. Play out the Vista, get a basic island. We do put ourselves down to 14 with that fetch. And they still have 6 cards in hand. Get that on tap here. There's a Boris Charm down to 10. There's a Swift Seer. Attack in for 7. We get another card off of the Guide. Guide's drawn us 3 cards this game, I think. Alright, Idoline's definitely one that we want to gust, so that is going to prevent us from playing some of our cheaper spells, so just want to gust that now. They put it on the bottom, so they do not want to draw it again. Then we'll go ahead and go spell, get a Nexus, which is pretty good here. Having already have the Reclamation and a 2nd Nexus, that's going to be really good. So we have a total of 5 mana. We can play a land drop, so that's essentially 12 mana that we're going to have that we can spend. 12 is not going to be enough to both play the Nexus. Or yeah, 12 would be enough to play both the Nexus and the Jace, so, but not the Nexus, the Jace, and the Search. So I think getting the Jace is just better here than getting out the Search. Get to do a Brainstorm, put this Gretchen and the 4-drop on bottom, keep this Archmage Charm to draw up some more cards. Get a basic off of our Misty, try to conserve our life total a little. We are at 5, so gotta be careful on these fetches. They are tapped out, so not too worried about what they might have. Do not have enough mana to charm before this Nexus, so we'll just cast a Nexus. Cryptic is our draw for the turn. We have enough net mana now we can get out to search and still Nexus, so Jace getting us another Nexus of Fate. Put 2 cards back on top. They're going to shuffle away with this Nexus of Fate. And then we can draw more cards with the Charm, which is another Nexus of Fate. Another Charm's good, can draw more cards than our deck, so keep that on top. Flip this Azcanta. Lead off with the Brainstorm. Put Counterspell and Besiju on top. They'll get shuffled away after this Nexus. At this point, it's not guaranteed, but it is pretty close here. Between the Azcanta, already having 2 Nexus in hand still, having a Charm as well, and the Jace brainstorming every turn, like this is hard to whiff on, so gonna speed up, not doing a whole lot interesting, just Nexusing, taking turns. Azcanta, try to find Nexus again, drawing cards, try to find Nexus, brainstorming, trying to find the Nexus. Hit another Reclamation. Gonna get to cast that out, so now we can start Azcanting 3 times a turn to try to find Nexus. Flip the mana because we want to play Nexus first. I actually missed a tap with Azcanta there, trying to go a little bit faster. Play out Nexus, and they concede here without actually seeing our win con. We were gonna, Azcanta, try to find something, and then Gross Bowel, try to draw, but they seen enough. They have better things to do. We get game 2. For game 3 against Burn, no change to sideboard. Run it back as is. We are on the draw this time. Bad hand here. 3 Nexus of Fate, 1 lands, easy mulligan. 2 lands, Curse Spell, Counterspell, Charm. Keepable hand. It's not great. It is a little risky. But we are on the draw, so put Shark Typhoon on bottom and begin with another 2 land hand. Turn 1 Swift Sphere, attacking 1, draw the lands, that's good, that's what we needed, was that 3rd land. There's a Rift Bolt, or sorry, Lightning Bolt. There's a Skewer, so pretty fast start here. They've already got us down to 9 on turn 2. Eighth of Gus is pretty good draw here. Gonna help slow them down some. They go Lightning Bolt us down to 6. They're down to 2 cards in hand. So they could have double bolt here. They sorcery speed that bolt. I don't quite know why they did that at that timing, but if they did have another bolt, I would imagine they may have done the same. So I'm just gonna gust here. What this is gonna do is prevent 2 damage from that and make them have to, recast it next turn to get damage. So in the long run, it's gonna hopefully prevent a lot of damage. Right now, it's preventing 2. And they put it on the bottom, so they actually, whatever is in their hands, they don't want another Swift Sphere. But they don't want Swift Sphere, so don't know what exactly that says about their hand. Alright, there's a Suspend the Rift Bolt, so they're down to 1 card in hand, but we're down to 6 life. We have the counter spells, so just can play the come and play tap land. We're not going to be paying the 2 life for it, so I could, hold it up for the Gross Spell and put in untapped, but we do not have enough life to be doing that. There's a Rift Bolt, also spends. This is going to eat up the counter spell. So they got 1 card in the hand and whatever they top deck. It could be bad for us. Rolling Vortex is not good for us, but it's definitely not a, you know, Boris Garrison plus, or Boris, yeah, there's a Arid Mesa, so that is actually good for us. So now they have no cards in hands. All they have is this Rolling Vortex out, and we have a Cryptic Command for it. It does 1 to us during our upkeep. Reclamations, could draw there, play that out. Allow us to now also have mana for this Cryptic Commands that we can counter a spell, or this Charm that we can use to counter a spell. They drew another lands, so that is good. They're just going to crack it now. I don't know why they're not using this fetch right away. They could have tried to thin the deck of another land there with that fetch, but... So this Vortex will kill us in the long run, and it's going to prevent our life gain card that we sided in from gaining us life, so I think it's best to bounce it and draw a card. We draw a Charm, which is, I guess, pretty good. It's not exactly what we needed, but Gretchen seems good here. It's an 0/4 blocker, so it's going to be good against their Goblin Guide or any other hasten creatures. So get a Ghost Bow to try to find that land for the turn. Do not find the land for the turn, so just play out the Gretchen as the blocker. And then untap and hold up Charm for counterspell. There's Vortex again. Counter that. So they have 2 mystery cards in hand. One of them was another land, so now they're kind of getting flooded. They have 1 mystery card in hand. A fetch that they're still not using yet. Second Reclamation, it's going to be good, but not quite right now, not quite what we need. So with only 1 card in hands, just playing this Witness, getting back the Cryptic, kind of like what I talked about in the pre-game, we can just loop this Cryptic and this Eternal Witness. As long as we only play 1 spell a turn, we can counter it and bounce the Eternal Witness. And with only 1 card in hands, it's likely that's all they're going to be able to play is 1 card a turn. Alright, yeah, there's another lands. So now we can pretty well just loop this. Keep the Cryptic Command for later, draw 2 cards off Charm. One of them is the Weather the Storm, which is really good here, going to be able to give us some life. So trying to maximize the amount that we can storm here, going to start off with the Wilderness Reclamation. What that's going to do is going to allow us to untap here twice. Going to get in for 2 damage. I already got the Gretchen as a blocker. And for some reason attacking in for 2, this is the thing that gets them to actually sack the Mesa to thin their deck. I don't understand the timing of that. But they crack both Mesas, and then they take their 2 damage. I get to untap, float all my mana, untap again, just in case the last card is something I need a counter. I want to have that mana floating. So I draw the 2 cards, and then actually don't have enough mana for this Cryptic, but we'll chance it anyway, play the Weather Storm. Hope the last card isn't a Skullcrack, because this is going to be 9 life with their lock, and again, they've seen enough. They don't actually need to see win con, and they just scoop it up. So we get game number 2, or match 2 against Burn to be 1-1 in this league. We won the die roll this time, so we're going to be on the play. Okay, starting hand, no green for Gross Bow or Gretchen, but it does have the counterspell. It's got Mika Korro to maybe try to draw, so it's worth keeping. Opponent revealed their companion. And mull to 6 cards. So they are on Tron. There is a sphere. There's the Sylvan's Grind, try to get their third piece of Tron, so let's try to slow them down with the counterspell. Alright, there's our green. We do have to shock it in, but it's against Tron, so like total doesn't matter too much. Spear's fine. Stirrings. Get some map. And there's a redundant piece of Tron and a map, so just going Growth Spiral here. Trying to win this is not great without the double green, but it's okay. And there's Reclamation right on time. Play that out. And then untap here, they've got, if I bounce this tower, they cannot get Tron next turn because they have to replay the tower. So I'm gonna just slow them down again, bounce their tower, draw a card. They get to search out their last Tron piece, but they play the mine, so they still have to replay the tower that we know about. And then that's my second green, so I get to, again, just shock in the breeding pool. Actually, here I have the mana, so I play out the Gretchen, and then I can Nexus of Fate. So flip this 2 mana here, so I can just play a Gretchen and Nexus and take an extra turn. And then now we can actually play out Jace and Nexus, but we actually don't have the Nexus, so rather than chancing, because that was the line is play out Jace, I have the mana for Nexus, but I am chancing drawing into the Nexus off of the Brainstorm, so just the safer play here, Witness, bring back that Cryptic Commands, and then this will allow me to bounce their mine at end of turn, so they again cannot assemble Tron. They'll only have at most 3 mana on their turn. So I can use Gretchen first. Maybe should have used Cryptic first, because I actually do end up drawing a card. So I bounce that and draw a card, which I do draw the lands, which I could have put it in play with Gretchen. So maybe the other order would have been better, but here they play their mine again, and then they have the Warping Whale for the Gretchen. Not too sad about that. They didn't hit our trying to win this, so that's good. At this point, just a lot of lands in hand, see as we can Jason Mind Sculptor, brainstorm some of them away. And we do get the fetch land, which is good because we're going to get to shuffle those 2 lands away. Just do that now. Get in for 2. And then just hope that whatever they play we can counter. That they don't have a really good cast trigger on it. Flip the mana. It's a free scry here. I still have enough mana to counter, so flip up that mana. Get to put Vista on bottom and Cryptic on top. I can keep bouncing their land and drawing cards. So they finally assemble Tron on turn 7. And Cityscape Lever actually is a cast trigger, so it does get to get rid of our Reclamation, but we do get to counter the body here. And we have the second Reclamation in hand, so it's not too Sad. Go and Brainstorm, we find the Nexus, and another Eternal Witness. So we could actually Cryptic Command, bounce one of the lands, Eternal Witness, replay Cryptic Command, bounce another lands, set them back on their 2 mana. So put 2 lands on top. I do actually want one of those lands though, so Mikakoro, tapping the Power Stone they gave me to draw that land and put on top. Play out the Reclamation. Attack for 2. Shocking the land, because why not? Float a bunch of mana. Well, float 2 mana. And then realizing here don't have enough to play the Cryptic, so just Nexus. And then I can Mikakoro again. They're tapped out, so I just want to try to draw as many cards as I can, even if it means letting them draw 2 cards too. It's game 1, they're not going to have like Force in their deck most likely. Well, yeah, if Green Tron has Force in their main deck, something's wrong. So they actually concede pretty early here. Far from a deterministic loop, but especially with the unknown 2 cards here is what my main plan was going to be, to make sure even if they get another turn, it wasn't going to be a good turn, but they saw enough at this, so we get game 1 against Tron. For game 2 against Tron, decided out the Time Warps. They do have the Warping Whale, so having a sorcery for them to target, just would rather have the early game Spell Pierce to try to counter one of their early mana fixing or like map or whatever, so that's how it's sideboarded. Really bad starting hand here. 2 lands, 1 comes in taps, 1 doesn't produce blue or green, so pretty easy mulligan. This hand's, it's got that turn 1 Spell Pierce talking about, it's got 2 charms, it's either draw cards or counter some things, and it's got lands. Eternal Witness, I think, yeah, I end up putting that on bottom. It's just one of the weakest of the hand here. Everything else is good. So they typical Tron mulligan out to 5. Keep a Tower Sphere. Draw the Reclamation. Do have to shock in the Breeding Pool, but again, life total doesn't really matter against Tron. They go and sack, and I have the Spell Pierce. I want to make sure I get a good chance to use it here, so I think denying them this Stirring is good. And there's second land is not another Tron piece, which is good. They go down to 2 cards in hand, play a Stirrings, and reveal a Tron piece they didn't already have, so Nexus, not the best draw here. Alright, there's the mine that they revealed. There's a 4th land, which is good. Gonna play out our 3rd land so we can have Charm open. There's another non-Tron land, so it's good for us. A Sphere, with only 2 cards left in hand. Just gonna draw 2 cards, try to find some good answers. Another Nexus and Eternal Witness. And similar to the last game, play out this Wilderness Reclamation so that we can end the turn Cryptic Commands, bouncing a Tron piece so they cannot build Tron. But they do actually have the Boseiju, so they get to Boseiju our Reclamation, get a Breeding Pool tapped, and now they are able to assemble Tron if they draw it. They Stirrings to try to find it. They Stirrings into Chromatic Star, and there's Map, so Map will get them to Tron land, and they assemble Tron. Turn 5 Tron. Play a star, crack it, 2 cards in hand. So now at this point, if I Cryptic and bounce lands, they can just recast it. I'm not actually keeping them off of Tron. So I just want to Witness, get back the Reclamation, and keep the 3 mana open for this Charm and hope that they don't cast something with the cast trigger that's really devastating. Or cast something that they get to crack this Sanctum and get a devastating drop. Oblivion Stone is actually kind of scary here because it is going to kill our Reclamation again. So it is worth countering. They only have 1 card left in hand. They do have 8 mana left to cast it, but I think if that is the counter bait, it worked because got to deal with it. And the last card is Sylvan Scrying, so that's fine for us. They get a Blast Zone, which is going to be a while before it gets to do anything, especially with this Cryptic. Going to keep it from ever actually getting to activate. Play with the Reclamation that we brought back with the Witness. Attack in for 2. Here is our clock. Just 10 more turns of attacking with that. Flip the mana. Got 2 Nexuses, which is going to give us 2 draws, plus the Cryptic for another chance to try to find something. But again, Tron player just concedes to the Nexus while they're still at a lot of life, and we don't have a whole lot going on. But we get the match against Tron 2-0, having us 2-1 in this league. Match number 4, lost to die roll. Be on the draw. Good starting hand here. No early interaction, but it's still worth keeping. Looks like Death and Taxes. Yeah, so Thalia is a card that does not see a lot of play anymore, yet it's really good against this deck, so super, lucky to play against the one deck playing Thalia. Yeah, that Thalia does hurt a lot, and we don't have that good of answers for it. So they got Vial on 2, they play another Vial. Just playing something here. This Witness doesn't block Thalia well, but it gets a land back, so it's something. And if they Vial in something, it can block that too, maybe, so. Alright, so nothing for 2. I don't know what their hand is that doesn't have anything else for 2. Which, I guess maybe they just drew that, because they could have filed that in. More lands, so drawing a lot of lands. This is where Reclamation would have been really good, but I can't cast it because it costs 5. So now they have Vial on 3 and Vial on 2. Looks like they kept Vial on 3. But they didn't cast anything. They didn't use Vial. So end step, I could try to draw 2 cards here, but I'm kind of afraid of Skyclave hitting my Reclamation. So I'm actually just gonna steal their Aether Vial on 3. That way also I could Violent in a Witness, bringing back Cryptic commands, and I can Cryptic to bring back Witness, and Vial kind of helps with that loop some, so taking the Vial to prevent them from putting in a Skyclave, and to, you know, maybe even do my own little combo with it with Witness. So I keep it at 3, draw another Cryptic. Finally have enough mana now to play the Reclamation, so get that out there. And then again, I want to not have this Reclamation get Skyclaved, so I'm actually holding during the upkeep here. I'm going to Cryptic, bouncing the Aether Vial before he gets to 3, and just trying to draw a card here. Tapping him down doesn't really... I'm at enough life total I can take this attack, so I don't really see the need to tap him. They Vial in a Spell Scatter Sprite. And then Prismatic ending my Vial. Well, their Vial. Another Ghost Quarter. I could chump block, but not worth it yet. Down to 5. Drawing more lands. Spending the 4 mana, gonna try to draw 2 cards. Draw 2 more lands, which is just Flood City. So, have a lot of lands. Don't really want to play out the utility lands with the Ghost Quarter. I mean, it's not too bad to force the Ghost Quarter, but I kind of want to wait a little bit on them. I'm not really going to be using the utility lands right now anyway. So I'm going to try to tap down their board. As I said, this plays risky because it doesn't actually target them. It's just, it only has one target, and that target is the Witness. But I have just a lot of mana and not a lot going on, so yeah, and they do actually have the path, so that is just, I don't know what's going on with this deck. It's got Prismatic Ending plus Thalia, kind of I guess works together, but Path plus Thalia plus Sprite, it's a weird things going on. Not your typical taxes. And then they attack in for exactly 5. So I could have just tapped down their board and drawn a card, and then they wouldn't have been able to path. I do actually look at my next card. I would have drawn into another Cryptic commands, so I would have been able to tap down the board again, like, and then drawn again. I don't know. I still just flooded a lot of lands, so we'll try better game 2. I get some kind of blue-white Death and Taxes. Kind of tough to again, I didn't have any answer at all for Thalia. Thalia is just a really annoying card. Took out a little bit of the graveyard with taking out the Witness and the Time Warp. Also took out 2 counterspells, a little worse with Vials because they just get the Vial in everything. And then I put in these Spell Pierces to maybe try to get their Vials before they can start. And they, for playing a Thalia deck, they did have a lot of spells in the deck, so that seemed worth putting in. And then Fogs, just try to, they're a creature-based deck attacking, so Fog seemed like a good thing against them. So we get to be on the play. 2-land hand against a Thalia deck, not where we want to be, so mulligan down that to 6. Another 2-land hand against a Thalia deck. Probably should mulligan this. Like, this is not great. It's got a turn 2 Gretchen that we can play. It's got a turn 3 Eternal Witness that maybe we can get, and then maybe a turn 2 counterspell. But against the Thalia deck, we just want more lands. Not as many lands as we had the first game, where we flooded, but I ended up keeping it, putting one of the Reclamations on the bottom. Alright, turn 1, the new Mites drawn into Nexus, right on schedule. Turn 2 Thalia, of course, because that's what their deck does, is always get Thalia in turn 2. There is our other 2-drop, which is now a 3-drop, so yeah. And there's Arbor, great when we're stuck on 2 lands. Drawing into another Nexus of Fate. Great draw. There's Giver Runes. I mean, these are not doing much on the clock. Like, we do have a lot of time. Got an 0-4 blocker here, slowing down the clock more. Paying the life. I don't know. I gotta imagine it's just better to be swinging with a Toxic 1 creature than it is to give something else toxic. Like, they would be getting in for an extra 1 damage. And if I've blocked a toxic creature, they'd be getting in for an extra 2 damage. Like, it just seems like a much faster, better clock to be attacking with the 1/1. But they are choosing to use its ability and pay the 2 life. Finally get to 3rd lands, so now we get to play at this search to maybe search for some more lands. That does mean we are tapped out though, so this Arbor plus Ghost Quarter does get to actually set us back a land. So we get to go back to 2 lands again. Again, they're not attacking with the Might, they're just using its ability. And yeah, they Ghost Quarter our lands. Hopefully we can draw another green source and witness it back. Fog is an interesting one it's not a lands, but it does stall a turn, so maybe it'd be better just to mill it and try to draw a land, but at least it's a playable card, so keep it on top. They attack out, still not attacking with the Might, but they are starting to attack with some of the Givers. Block here, still use the Might, and then just play the Fog. Prevent all the damage. Played another Giver. It is a land, but really need a green source and preferably a non-come play tap land, so mill that and draw it into the exact same thing that I surveilled, so play it as a land. Their clock's actually starting to get a little more fast, especially now that they got Mutable attacking, and they finally realized that actually attacking with the Might is better than using its ability, so they attack with everything except for leaving 1 Giver. Puts us down to 7. So again, another lands, but not a green land. Really would rather just flip this Ascanta, put cards in graveyard, and it's the exact same card I just surveilled. It's Deja Vu again. So they have lethal. We can't play any of the cards in our hand thanks to Thalia. Can activate Gretchen, but it's just too late now. They know they have lethal. They don't, hold back with Might or anything. So they end up actually suing everything, even the last Giver. Can only block 2 of it. It's still lethal. So yeah, whatever this taxes deck's going on here, they get us Thalia's good, and Mana Flood game 1. stuck in lands game 2. We end up losing the match. 2-2 in this league. Last match of the league. Gonna decide if we go positive 3-2 or a negative 2-3. And we win the die roll, so we actually get to be on the play. Good opening hands. It's got 2 growth spells. It doesn't have any, like payouts or things like that, but or reclamation or whatever. But it's got some things to help get us there. So this to get the growth spell on turn 2, we will have to play the harbor tapped on turn 1. And then turn 2, we can play the Hall, which will come play untapped and be able to growth spell. Turn 1, Drum, so could be a few things there. This also would have let us have this work, but Hall, this is last turn for Hall to come in untapped, so I want to do that one first. Alright, Engineer. This is, Sword and Meek. This is the combo deck. So, growth spell, get to go and play the fetch land so that we can make this next harbor can play untapped. Thin the deck now, get a basic island. Play that harbor untapped. That way, if need be, we can growth spell, put this breeding pool in play untapped, and Archmage Charm something. They just come play tap land and attack for 1, so growth spiral here. We'll still do the shock in play, but kind of want to save this charm for, a counter magic. Or use it as a counter spell or whatever, so we'll just vision here, and pretty good vision. Yeah, any one of these is actually a good choice. Cryptic is going to be able to stop their combo, counter a spell, bounce something. It's going to be very helpful. Play at the search, holding up to 3 mana still for the charm, for the counter. Portable Hole. I don't really care that much about this search to want to counter the Portable Hole, so I can just let that one go. Second Portable Hole, I don't actually know. I'm trying to get like Metalcraft, I guess. I don't know. Maybe just having it so they could sack it to bring back a different artifact. But at this point, really just want to find some cards here. Want to use my mana, so I'm gonna draw 3 or draw 2. Did find the lands. It's gonna play at the Gretchen. I mean, I don't know if he didn't attack with the Engineer last turn, but this does block it. And he played at the Portable Hole, so oops. And then Galvanic Blast. That would be the reason that he played at the 3rd artifact, so you could get that Metalcraft. I could have countered it, but I don't actually want to use a counter on saving Gretchen. I'd rather save them for stopping their combo. Again, end of turn, just want to be using my mana, trying to draw some cards. But this time, they do have the Rebuke. So they Metallic Rebuke it, can't pay the 3. I draw my own counter spell, or draw another. I'll go and play out the Jace. It's not really in fear of dying to the Engineer anytime soon, and I get a Brainstorm off of it. They do have another Blast, which is their last card in the hand, so feel okay about countering this here. They're on top deck mode, so I won't, but I really would like to keep this Jace. I need the cards. Pretty good Jace Brainstorm here. Put Cryptic in the Shark Typhoon on top. And of course, I don't save up the mana, and they draw the card that's holding the counterspell for. Actually, countering this isn't too relevant though, because they do have the Engineer, so they could just put it back onto the battlefield, sacking, portable hold that doesn't actually have anything under it. So yeah, definitely better to have the Jace. Going to use Jace, so really tough decision on which two I want. Time Warp plus Eternal Witness plus Jace. I can Time Warp, take an extra turn, Eternal Witness, bring back Time Warp, minus Jace to bring back Witness. It's not quite an infinite loop because I have to take a turn off to plus up the Jace, but every two turns I get an extra, or I don't know, the math there, it's not infinite, but I do get a lot of extra turns. So there's that temptation when I do already have the Jace. Shark Typhoon plus Nexus can end this game pretty quickly. And then Cryptic can actually bounce the Foundry, which will stop the Engineer from being able to bring it back. But I do put so I don't really care about ending it quickly. I just want to keep the control, so I put back the Shark Typhoon in the Cryptic, and I go for the take an extra turn, and also keeping the land allows me to do this. So take the extra turn, put Eternal Witness. Now I have another Time Warp. So I have 2 extra turn spells. At this point, I probably should be plussing the Jace to do that whole loop thing with the Cryptic and the Eternal Witness, but instead I just keep trying to brainstorm. I really am trying to find Reclamation, make this go a little faster, make it so I could actually cast this Nexus easier, but I cast it anyway, shuffle away, and they concede. I had a lot of things going on. I didn't actually have the win, but Nexus plus Brainstorm every turn. Pretty good. Go to game 2. So for game 2 against Thopter Sword combo, sided out a lot. Sided out the 2 charms, they're one of the worst counters in this matchup. Sided out Time Warp, they're just a little slow. Sided out the Witness, Search, and Gretchen. Gretchen and Search are just targets for their portable holes. They do keep that in. They're not actually too great in the match. And I did consider siding in the Endurance, but it does stop their combo. Very rarely, if they have the mana open, like they can always just start the combo again. So it's not that great of an answer to the combo. And I just put in all the counter magic I had in the sideboard. Alright, so opening hand, we got to turn 1 Spell Pierce. We're on the draw, so we can't Spell Pierce or turn 1 drop, but got our 1 basic forest, which will allow us to at least grow spell. It makes this charm look worse, but it's a keepable hand. So they start off on Triome, start off on Islands. We drew Boseiju, which is our 2nd green source in the deck that doesn't produce blue. Needle, so not quite sure what they're going to needle. None of our combo that we really care about is Needle. That is stopped by Needle, so don't think it's worth Spell Piercing here. Just let that resolve. They do name Jace. that could be annoying down the line, but we don't have Jace now. And the second needle, again, didn't know what they were naming for the first one, so second one seems even less scary. They named Misty Rainforest. Again, not a problem right now. Maybe later on it will be. Reclamation's a draw. Not bad. So there's a third sideboard card. It's a Lantern. Not actually that good against us. Did keep in, 2 of the Eternal Witnesses, so it does something, but I took out the Search and 1 of the Eternal Witnesses. And then go and try to Ghost Bow. Unfortunately, you can't put Vision in play, and I don't actually know if I want to put the Boseiju in. I kind of want to save it to maybe hit one of these needles. But they actually counter here with a Rebuke, which seems a little aggressive. But I guess they don't want the ramp or the card draw, so you're going to end up putting the Visions into play tapped here. Don't have a 3-drop that I could play with the island, so I play a Saga. And I could kind of Sword, but it does just as much in battlefield as it does in the graveyard, so no point to send to the graveyard. Draw, Dispute. So now with 2 1-drop counter spells, I don't really want to play out this Reclamation right now. I'd rather just wait next turn to where I can have counter backup. It's possible they have another Rebuke. That's why they're so aggressive with the first one. So I'm just going to play it out Witness and try to get back this Growth Spell. Don't really care too much about it. Either one, so Witness gets resolved, Growth Spell gets exiled off of the Lantern. Saga goes up. Alright, now to the Jace, which we can't use because of the needle, so let's play out this Reclamation with the counter backup. And they do have the counter spell, so we get to Spell Pierce that. Get in for 2, and then untap. Because we drew our 2 green sources, we don't have enough blue mana to play both of these counters from our hands, so they play out the Thopter. That's definitely worth the counter spell. Go and Dispute it, save this Charm to maybe draw some cards. And they have Star, so they only have 1 card left in hand. Play a Saga. It's a good thing they haven't been making tokens with Saga, because those definitely could have been closing out the game. Draw another lands, so let's try to use Charm just to draw some more cards, draw more lands, get some of these lands out, get in for 2, and then they have 0 cards in hand, we have 3, but Jace we can't use, and 2 of them are lands, so I think it's better to use Mikakor to try to draw us a card, even though it does draw them as well. We have a lot more mana than they do to spend on the cards we're drawing, so it seems like it could advantage us more. And one of the cards I drew was a lands, but we drew a counter spell, so that's good for us to have something. And then that's all they played, so end up playing the Cryptic, bouncing the one targeting Jace, so I can play this Jace from the hand and start brainstorming, but also drawing a card. They sacked the Star to try to find a counter magic, I assume. They floated blue, and they didn't draw it, so that resolves. We get a second Reclamation, which, I mean, we already have all the mana we need, so second Reclamation's not all that great, but just saying that, I actually misclick here, and I play out the second Reclamation instead of the Jace. Kind of a punt there. So play at the Vista, play at Islands, just try to thin my deck. Probably also should have held the Vista, just, you know, making one punt at the other. Vista's good with the Jace to shuffle away if I don't want the cards. Trying to recover from this, I draw a card, it's another Jace. Got the 2 Reclamations, so I just got a lot of mana, so I can use Mikakoro a lot. So first untap, draw another lands, float the mana just in case I draw Nexus. Hope to draw Nexus here off the Mikakoro, and it's not a Nexus, it's Spell Pierce. So yeah, kind of a punt turn there. Hopefully it doesn't cost too much. They have a full hand of 7 cards. Replay the Needle, but this time naming Mikakoro instead of Jace. That's good, especially since I drew the second Jace. But drawing them into Urza, definitely not good. Because now all these artifacts are mana. They have almost as much mana as I do now. But the only thing they have to do with all this mana is spin Urza. So I don't know what's in their hand that spinning Urza is the best thing. But they hit pretty well with Urza. They got Goblin Engineer, which since they have Foundry in Graveyard and Sword already on Battlefield, and they have Urza out, that's the 3-card combo. So if they get to untap, they can make infinite Thopters and gain infinite life. Which we can actually beat infinite life and infinite Thopters, so not that scary. But we'll get to play with this Jace because they didn't Pine Needle it. We do find a Nexus, put Spell Pierce on top so we can shuffle that away. It's probably not going to get to resolve anything. They have everything they want anyway. They just want to untap. So float a bunch of mana here. Play the Nexus. Just going to tap down their board so I can actually start getting in with Witness and draw the card. Draw into another Reclamation, so a lot of mana. Misty Rainforest, can't use it because of the Needle. Brainstorm here. Did not find the Nexus, so just put 2 lands on top. Play out the castle. Use castle to scry those 2 lands I just put on top, on bottom. Play out this Jace for another chance to try to find something. Find the Nexus. So 2 cards on top that are going to get shuffled away with Nexus. So untap. Make a bunch of mana. And then Nexus. Shuffle away those cards I didn't want. And then with them at 9 life, I was gonna Shark Typhoon, make a creature big enough to kill him. I think it would have been a 9/9. 7, 8, 9. Or more than that. Yeah, it would have been able to kill him. And yeah, we get game number 2. Finishing up the league 3-2. So that was the league with Reclamation Nexus. 3-2 final record, losing really to draws. We got mana flooded, mana stuck. Kept some, questionable kind of 2 or 3 land hands and just didn't draw the 4th land. And Dahlia, I don't think Dahlia's played enough that I need to consider changing the deck at all to try to beat. It is an annoying card, but we still have Cryptic. We can bounce it and then do all of our comboing off. And it's, yeah, just keeping a 2-lander against it was not a good decision. That was the main, reason for losing that. So besides that, Visions, still iffy about this, that it would be better as Memory Deluge. There's definitely times where having it be a land that we could put it into play was helpful. Not actually ever using it for its spell, not very helpful, but still having a land that you could use as a spell is good. Browse and Borrow I still think would be good finding the deck. Win condition, I mean, especially this league, not really a necessity. A lot of decks just kind of conceded pretty early, so actually finding a way to close out a game was not that relevant. But I mean, Eternal Witness and Hall are definitely good ones, but Browse and Borrow is another good one that actually flies over and is a little bit faster than Witness. Other than that, that's the deck here. Been working on it. Pretty happy with how it is. Besides those couple of things, let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you if you watched the whole video. Remember, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's any other suggestions, anything I might have missed. And until next time.